Dr. Susan McAllister, Saffron Burrows is harvesting the brain tissue of DNA-altered sharks as a possible cure for Alzheimer's disease on an island research facility. A routine procedure goes awry when the facility's backers send an executive, Samuel L. Jackson, to investigate the experiments, and a shark attacks the researchers. Now that sharks outnumber their human captors, McAllister and her team must devise a strategy to prevent them from escaping and breeding in the ocean. Hello everyone. I'm going to explain a movie called Deep Blue Sea. This movie was released in 1999, so let's get started. At the beginning of the movie, Dr. Susan, who works for the pharmaceutical industry and is trying to eradicate a disease, is shown at the beginning. The owners of the company ask her to stop the research because their money has been wasted with no results. She requests 2 days and promises to return with results in 2 days. Susan is shown holding her head as she drove him to her research facility in the middle of the sea, where the owner was greeted by a biologist. He is shown around their research facility by a biologist. In the water, he notices a man named Carter, who looks after the shark. He becomes ecstatic to see him, and the biologist assures him that he is dealing with a typical shark. The sharks on which we are conducting research are enormous and are kept separate. She shows him around the facility and explains that it has 3 levels. The group members live on level 1, the lab and sharks are on level 2, and there is an airlock facility on level 3 where the shark experiments are conducted. It discovers that Susan was working on a protein in a shark's mind. Sharks have no problems with their eyesight and do not become weak as they age. Then, at level 1, a cook is shown preparing food for everyone. When Carter goes to feed the small shark, he notices the huge sharks devouring it. Carter tells Susan that we should wait a little longer for this experiment, but Susan ignores him and says that if we don't do it tomorrow, we have to close this facility. Otherwise, we won't be able to do anything. As the evening approaches, the control room head notices that the weather isn't cooperating and that there is a chance of a storm, so they begin preparing for the test. Carter uses the tunnel to bring a shark into the lab while making it faint. The doctor scans it because it was massive. Later, Dr. Susan extracts the protein from its mind and places it on the patient's brain. After that, the protein ends the Alzheimer process in a matter of seconds. Their investigation yielded positive results, and they were able to carry out their plan. The doctor was watching the shark when it regained consciousness and ate the doctor's hand, causing his arm to bleed. When Carter sees this, he goes to shoot it with a gun, but Susan walks away. On the other hand, the head of the control room requests assistance. A helicopter arrives for assistance, and the storm is severe, so it uses the rope to pull the doctor's stretcher. Others seek shelter inside the research facility to avoid the storm. Meanwhile, the helicopter transporting the doctor has a problem with its rope. It becomes dislodged, and the doctor is thrown into the water. It is caught by a shark and dragged towards it. The helicopter loses control as a result of it. There was a huge blast when it collided with the control tower. The blast also kills the controller operator's head. This was a massive explosion that shook the entire building. This blast also destroyed the planes and boats they had positioned. In the lab, the shark is seen hitting the doctor's stretcher with a mirror. Water pours into their laboratory as the mirror cracks. They move on from there in some way. Their lab has been soaked in water, and they are now preparing to go to level 2, but they notice water on the stairs as well. The elevator was also broken, leaving them with no other option for getting upstairs. The cook was at level 1 and was going to see what was going on. The level was also drowned in the water when the water suddenly flowed there. At level 1, there was also a shark. Dr. Susan and others were looking for a way out when they noticed a shark trying to break through the door, which it did after a short time, and the water began to flow. They arrived at a safe location, but the owner had no idea what was going on. How is it possible for a shark to do this? Carter also has no idea who is in charge of the sharks. The owner then says, "Susan, tell me the truth about why the shark is doing this. What did you do in your experiment?" Susan reveals that the shark's mind isn't huge, so extracting the protein from it wasn't easy. That is why, with the assistance of another doctor, she used genetic engineering to expand its mind in an illegal manner. As a result, it will provide us with more protein, and this is why the shark has evolved. The cook, on the other hand, is shown at level 1 and sees the shark. He was being pursued by a shark, so he took refuge in the kitchen. In the meantime, the shark has entered the kitchen, and the cook notices his parrot. He tries to save his parrot, but it is eaten by the shark. The cook is startled by this and falls down. The shark appears behind the cook again, but this time he hides in the oven. The shark was about to eat him when the oven's gas ignited, forcing the cook to break the oven door open and escape. He walks away and throws the lighter on the oven, which causes a blast and the shark to shatter into many pieces. When Carter and the others arrive at the submarine room, they discover it has been drowned due to the blast. They become terrified, and the engineer fights with Dr. Susan because he is afraid, but the owner tells them not to be afraid and to work together. This is the route we can take to get out of this situation. Before he can finish his sentence, a shark appears from behind him, and both sharks devour the owner. They became terrified and exited the level. The air pressure was high, and the pool was filling the room with water. Carter and the engineer lock the room and proceed to level 1, but the shark appears. It pursues them while slamming the door shut. Carter gets an idea and goes to open the level 2 door to let the water in. Likewise, they will be able to go upstairs when the time comes. They were ascending via a ladder when it broke, and the biologist fell into the water, prompting Carter to assist her. They are depressed to see this until the shark has caught her and eaten her. They were trapped in the middle because the door to level 1 was so high and their ladder was broken. In the meantime, the cook arrives and takes them to their destination. Later, Carter informs us that we are 60 feet below the surface. If we turn on the emergency pump, the water on the stairs will return. Now, Carter goes to turn on the pump with the engineer. He turns on the pump, but a shark appears and eats him as he does so. It separates him into 2 pieces, and Carter becomes terrified in one of them. He opens the door and exits there before returning the way he came. Dr. Susan is seen telling the cook that she needs to go to her room to collect her data. She notices that the area has been drowned and returns to her room, where she discovers her data. Meanwhile, a shark is approaching her, so she climbs onto the shelf to flee. Her data had fallen into the water, and the shark was about to attack her, but she grabbed the electric wire and placed it in the shark's mouth. The shark receives an electric shock and dies as a result of the shock, which also burns her data. Carter, who has reached level 1 in a different way, is shown, and the cook has deduced from seeing him alone that the engineer has also died. They later go to a chamber with the cook and turn on a surface, which causes the pressure to rise. The shark is distracted by it, and they have also turned upside down, but the shark is holding the cook's foot as they turn upside down. The cook uses his locket to attack the shark's eye, and the shark flees. When Carter notices the cook upside down in the water, he rescues him and brings him upstairs. Susan provides immediate first aid, and the facility is submerged in the water. Carter claims to have figured out why this is happening. The shark wishes to leave the fenced-in area. Susan realizes her error and asks Carter to put an end to the shark. The shark is seen breaching the fence, and Carter appears with dynamite powder loaded into his gun. As he attacks the shark, he asks her to connect the wire to the battery. As a result, there will be a blast, and the shark will perish. Carter tries to shoot it, but it is too far away and has almost broken the cage in which it is held captive. Susan now cuts her hand with a mirror and dives into the water. As a result, the shark was drawn to her by the smell of blood and was approaching her. Carter rushes to her aid, and she was holding a stair leading to the shore that broke as she held it, and she fell into the water. The shark has devoured her, and Carter dives into the water to save her, only to be attacked by the shark himself. Carter holds it tightly, but the shark escapes by swimming quickly through the water. On the other side, the cook has reached the gun and is pointing it at the shark, which he is shooting. Carter asks him to connect the wire to the battery. There was a huge blast as Carter releases himself and holds the cage as the cook connects the wire with the battery. With it, the shark was shattered into pieces. The cook is overjoyed to see Carter alive, and they take a break. Carter reaches the cook and they take a break. The film has come to a close. I hope you enjoy the video, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you liked it. What are your thoughts on the video? Let us know in the comments, and I'll see you soon.